Here are the countries where Americans are not welcome. First up, we have Sudan. Americans traveling to Sudan may encounter negative perceptions among some locals due to historical and political reasons. Cultural differences and language barriers can also contribute to challenges in communication and understanding. The U.S. Department of State has issued a do not travel advisory for Sudan due to crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict in this country. Next is Somalia. This country has experienced protracted conflict, instability, and terrorism for decades. Somalia is affected by ongoing violence, including attacks by extremist groups such as Al-Shabaab. Kidnappings, bombings, and armed confrontations are common, posing serious risks to travelers, including Americans. Because of this, the U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel Advisory for Somalia. Number 10 is Libya. Foreigners, including Americans, have been targeted in Libya by extremist groups and criminal elements. The U.S. Embassy in Libya suspended operations in 2014 due to security concerns. As a result, the U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel Advisory for Libya due to crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and the ongoing conflict. This advisory reflects the extremely dangerous security environment in Libya and advises against all travel to the country. Next up in the list is Myanmar. Americans traveling to Myanmar may encounter negative perceptions among locals due to political tensions with the U.S. government and international sanctions. Myanmar has experienced political turmoil and significant civil unrest, particularly following the military coup in February 2021. The political instability and human rights abuses have strained international relations, including with the United States. Number 8, we have Yemen. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel Advisory for Yemen due to terrorism, civil unrest, health risk, kidnapping, and armed conflict. This advisory reflects the extremely dangerous security environment in Yemen and advises against all travel to the country. Americans are targeted by extremist groups and criminal elements in Yemen. There have been numerous incidents of kidnappings, attacks, and killings of Americans in the country. At number 7 is Russia. The relationship between the United States and Russia has been strained over various geopolitical issues, including disagreements over international policies, sanctions, and accusations of interference in domestic affairs. State-controlled media in Russia sometimes portray the United States in a negative light, which contribute to negative perceptions of Americans among the Russian population. Given the political climate, Americans traveling to Russia may encounter occasional scrutiny or questioning, especially if involved in activities perceived as sensitive by Russian authorities. Coming in at number 6 is Afghanistan. This country has been grappling with insecurity and violence for decades, including insurgency, terrorism, and armed conflict involving various militant groups. Foreigners, specifically Americans, are often targeted by extremist groups and criminal elements in Afghanistan. There have been numerous incidents of kidnappings, attacks, and killings of Westerners, highlighting the risks faced by Americans in the country. The relationship between the United States and Afghanistan has experienced tensions and disagreements over political issues and strategies related to counterterrorism and governance. Number 5 is Iraq. This country has experienced ongoing instability and security issues, including terrorism, insurgency, and armed conflict. Certain regions of Iraq remain highly dangerous for travelers, especially Americans. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory for Iraq due to terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The relationship between the United States and Iraq has been complex, especially since the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. Next up at number 4, we have Iran. Americans face several challenges and restrictions when traveling to Iran, primarily due to political tensions between the two countries. The Iranian government and media portray the United States negatively, which contribute to negative perceptions of Americans among the Iranian population. In the past, Americans have been targeted by Iranian authorities for arrest and detention, often on charges of espionage or other politically motivated accusations. At number 3 is Syria. United States and Syria have had strained diplomatic relations for many years. This is primarily due to differences in foreign policy, including Syria's close ties with Russia and Iran, and the U.S. stance on Syria's civil war and human rights issues. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory for Syria due to the ongoing civil war, terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The Syrian government view Americans with suspicion, particularly in the light of political tensions and the perception of U.S. involvement in the region. In the second place of our list is Venezuela. There have been political disagreements and conflicts between the governments of the U.S. and Venezuela, leading to the expulsion of diplomats and imposition of sanctions. The Venezuelan government has imposed restrictions on entry for Americans, particularly those involved in political activities or journalism that are perceived as critical of the government. Visas may be difficult to obtain, and there are limitations on where Americans can travel within the country. And the number 1 is North Korea. North Korea and the United States have a history of strained diplomatic relations. These countries do not have formal diplomatic relations, and there are ongoing political tensions, including disagreements over North Korea's nuclear weapons program and human rights issues. The North Korean government tightly regulates all aspects of life within the country, including interactions with foreigners. There have been incidents in the past where Americans visiting North Korea have been detained or arrested by North Korean authorities. Thank you for joining me on this journey through countries where Americans might find it challenging to visit. Remember, travel restrictions can change, so always check for updates if you're planning a trip to any of these fascinating places. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more exciting videos.